سوته دلی و شکوه و شکایت پایان ناپذیر وزیر خارجه رژیم از مجاهدین و مقاومت ایران در مصاحبه با CNN.
بیش از 100 افسر پلیس کشته شدند و هزاران افسر پلیس مجروح شدند. چه کسی این را هدایت می‌کرد؟ گروه تروریستی مجاهدین که 17,000 نفر را کشتند.
مقوله حجاب چه ربطی به تروریستهای مجاهدین دارد؟ از آنها بپرسید. پس این حجاب که خودشان بر سر می‌کنند چیست؟ این زن که می‌خواهد بیاید و رئیس جمهور ایران بشود، چرا خود او حجاب اجباری در سازمان تروریستی خودش اعمال می‌کند؟
I want to talk about your country. So what I want to understand is, are you therefore saying that killing innocent protesters, sexually abusing and raping women who have been arrested, as we, CNN, have spoken to at least one woman who says that, in a Revolutionary Guard detention center, summary trials, mass detentions of peaceful protesters, I'm talking about peaceful protesters now, is that Iran's standard for implementing human rights? That's what I want to know.
در ایران یه اتفاقی افتاد. یه دختر ایرانی فوت شد.
In Iran, we had an incident. An Iranian girl passed away, and we were all very sorry about that. But foreign interference and the Persian language media that are based in the United States and Britain focused their activities on encouraging and instigating the riots and acts of terror. And that's why peaceful protests ended up becoming violent, because of the foreign intervention. To the extent that even Daesh or ISIS exploited the situation to establish a presence in Iran. And I can tell you this, in full confidence, that our police and the security forces in Iran have not killed anyone with bullets or any other means in these riots. In fact, the police, they were not even given permission to use firearms. On the contrary, over 100 police officers were actually attacked by people who had all kinds of firearms and weapons they had procured from the unsafe borders of neighboring countries. They were martyred, and thousands of police were injured. And some foreign elements and the Persian language media that are financially supported and led by them claim that there was a new revolution and claim that a coup d'etat is being staged in Iran. And who is going to lead this? The head of the terrorist mini-group, MEK, the Hypocrites, which has martyred 17,000 Iranians, women and children. And they have been on the US and Western terrorist blacklists for many years.
All right, so that's your position. You say that they're terrorists. You did say that there were peaceful protests. I want to talk about the peaceful protests because those are the people who have also been arrested, have also been killed, and essentially repression has worked. We've seen summary executions of at least 4 people, and the protests are less than they were. But I want to ask you to respond. I want to ask you to respond to the fact, when you say the Islamic Republic of Iran respects human rights, one female protester says that she was detained inside a Revolutionary Guard facility for more than a month and raped by 3 different men. She went to a cleric, a mullah, afterwards because she was having suicide thoughts. She was so upset. CNN spoke with that cleric. Is that acceptable? Is it acceptable for a woman, whatever she's done, to be arrested and raped? And there are many, many, many reports of sexual abuse in this situation against women and men.
However, in those protests that had become violent, some individuals, some of whom who had entered Iran from the outside and were using firearms and killing the police, were arrested. You do know that the supreme leader actually issued an amnesty, and all those who were imprisoned were released, with the exception of those who had killed someone or were being sued.
Since this presidency, we have seen a crackdown on women and their dress and their rights. Why? Why does any regime need to prove itself on the back of women's rights, their own bodily space. Why? Why is that
My
a
request
test?
to you, look, you're supposed to interview me, but you're actually having a confrontation with me. Women in Iran have all the necessary required freedoms within the framework of the law.
I'm trying to figure out what
Do you
now
ask
are
other
the
countries?
confines of
Do
the
you
law.
ask the other countries who are in our region but are allies of the United States the same kinds of questions that you're asking me about the women's hijab? The issue in Iran at the moment is not that of hijab. What has hijab got to do with the MEK terrorists? Ask them. What is this hijab they are wearing? And they are based in Europe and in the United States. And this woman who wanted to come and become president in Iran, why is it that she has established compulsory hijab in her terrorist organization? They are friends of the United States. They're friends of the White House. Why should there be a double standard?
Okay, so I realize that we've probably reached the end of this little bit because you're not going to answer any more. But as you know, your government's reaction, violent reaction against women, has changed foreign policy and your relationship with many countries in the world. More sanctions have been leveled against you. The whole Iran nuclear deal is no longer willing to be negotiated. Even if you were willing, they're not willing anymore, the US and Europe.
But when some Western media seek to turn the issue and to exploit the death of an Iranian girl, the war in Ukraine, the energy crisis, they want to relate all that to Iran for their own specific objectives. It's the double standards that I talked about. And of course, we know their intentions very well. But in my opinion, I think the Iranians during the 11th of February rally, they gave them a good response. We get our legitimacy from the people of Iran. Our people are not the MEK, who are very few outside the country.